I don't know if we're going to get anybody else to come in today. But we're kind of a little past time, so I figured we could get started. So, at the beginning here, when I was getting set up, I just wrote down a quick little to-do list of things that I can think of. We need to fix our ship fire cooldown, a start screen, a game over screen, playing some audio, our explosion particles, keeping a score, changing levels, and then managing level complexity. Does that sound like a good list? Would anybody like a different order of priority on that list?
Explosion particles would be kind of low on the list.
Okay.
Because it's just visuals.
Okay, that's fair. That seem all right for today? We can fix our cooldown and work on our start and game over screens, and then see how much we get done. All right, sounds good then. Okay, so if you remember last week, we were trying to do a cooldown on our ship's firing, and it was only sort of working. And the big reason of why it was only sort of working is because of the key just pressed call, and like hitting that when the timeout was right and the frame was correct and that kind of stuff. So we're going to work on fixing it, and I think we're going to add another method here on our ship struct so that we can handle the key presses and then handle the firing somewhat separately. So let's get started on that, and we'll kind of talk about it as we go. We'll call it an internal fire. And now these we'll call our internal fire method. And we'll move some of our timing and everything over here. So we'll call our method request charge that's passed into this struct from here.
Where were we checking the cooldown period? Was that a different function, or was that?
Yeah, we were originally checking it here in this fire method.
You'd already taken that out?
Yeah, I had just copied it out, yep.
Oh. Okay.
And now what we can do
Oh, there it is.
is we can just call our method here. So this way we'll capture all the key presses that we need. And then once we get a key press, we'll pass it on to our, to our other method. And it will say, hey, has this cooldown happened? And so that way we're not going to be mixing like our frame timing with our key pressing and with our cooldown. So hopefully it'll work. So let's give this a try. Okay, that seems to be doing what we want it to do. I can't make it fire any more than our cooldown. Okay. I'm also thinking maybe we should make our depth charges move just a little bit slower to make it a little bit more challenging. So let's look at our depth charge real quick. And if I remember correctly, we were passing a speed in, or did we? No, we have a gravity here. Not here, you're right. Was it on our submarines we were passing the speed in? see what that's like. I should aid in needing to time just a little bit better. Yeah, it is. We're getting a lot of torpedoes that we're firing too. All right. Oh, I missed it. Kind of brings back some of the challenges of the original game, though. So, all right. So, we've got that set up. Let's talk about screens. So, Asa, what were you saying about screens earlier before everybody came in?
Like just disable like the movement, the enemies, and the player movement, and then just like put an overlay on it.
Yeah. So, as I've been thinking about that, we have our main game that is handling, it's kind of coordinating what gets to be drawn at the higher level, and then the level is what's controlling all of the objects within our game and whether they can handle their controls or not. I think your idea is not a bad idea if we were kind of prepared with our game to handle it that way. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to create a start screen and a game over screen. And then our game here can check and say if we have a start screen, then we'll just run the start screen. If we have a game over screen, we'll run the game over screen. And if not, then we'll run the level, if that makes sense. So let's...
So, are you tracking more of a game state overall, or is it like, or when you say if you have a start screen, what do you mean? If you have one, you're actually gonna.
Yeah, so we're gonna create we're gonna create a start screen, and then when the game starts up, we won't have a level. We'll have so our level will be nil.
Okay, so you're actually just gonna check it.
Yep.
In the
Yep.
structure.
Let's see. We're gonna need. So we are going to give a method to our start screen. That will take a function that we can call, so we'll have a callback. And then this is the question we're going to ask every time, what do we need in our start screen to be able to handle events and things and drawing? Yep.
Some sort of a button press.
Yep. So we'll need methods that will be able to handle that, right? Okay. What are we going to be looking for? Do you think we should just have an enter key? That's kind of what I think. We could do an enter key and then we could start the game. So I gotta remind myself what that value is. Okay, yep. Okay, so if we get an enter, then we can call the game started method. And then we need to be able to draw some text. And I always forget what this looks like, because it's actually kind of a few steps to handle. So I don't know if we'll do like debug text for the time being. Okay. Screen. All right, I'm just working on kind of setting up a background color for our start screen. Okay, so this will just draw a dark blue background. I can't remember how we write the debug text. So we're going to come check this out because we did it for the pointer, if we remember. So we've got a debug print statement is that. Okay. And then all right. So we're just setting up a background color, and then we're just going to print and press enter to start for now. Down the road on a startup screen, you could put like controls, left, right, how to fire, things like that. But we'll just work on hooking it in right now. Okay.
Do you know offhand if the EB10 engine has a thing for like registering the clickable button or things like that? Or do you have to
It's a pretty sparse set. There's something called Awesome EB10. It's a Git repo, and it's just a list of other Git repos. And I think they have some utility things like that available. I'm just not sure off the top of my head if they have like a, kind of button handling and things like that. So if you did want to do clicks, you would have to, draw a button or, draw a rectangle for your button and put your text in it and then handle a click event and get the position of the mouse when that happened, if there's not a library available for it. Okay, so we'll have a start screen. So instead of our create level, we'll hold off on that. And we're going to pass a game started method to our start screen. So we'll create a method here for that. And then when the game starts, instead of creating a new level, we will create a new start screen. Okay. All right, so we have a start screen, but now we're gonna have a problem because our level is nil right now. So we're going to do a couple things here. If level, so we're going to put some checks into our update method. We'll give some precedence to the level. Let's see, and then on draw, we'll move this out. Okay. Okay.
Sliders, drag and drop. Yeah. So
Oh, that's good. So you should be able to build out kind of a traditional UI for your. Okay, that's good to know. All right, so now we have a couple things going on. We have a level and a start screen now as part of our game struct. If the level is not nil, so we've set it, we've created it, then it will just run the update loop for the level, and it will run the draw loop for the level. If it is nil, then it will check the start screen, and if we have a start screen created, which we'll probably just default to on, and then maybe put a game over screen in that if else check down the road. Now this game started, we just need to create our new level. And we'll just be sure to pass our ship into the level here like we do down in our call here. So let's check this and see if our start screen is doing anything for us. That's kind of a horrid blue, isn't it? But yeah, that is the blue screen of death, isn't it? I'm gonna change it because that'll hurt my eyes. It sounds like it.
The perfect idea. Make it go from puke green to neon yellow.
You could animate that if you wanted to, for sure. I don't know if I like puke yellow. So, but we have an enter to start. So we can hit start and then it will fire up and start running our game. So let's kind of do a little bit of copy pasting and we can create a game over screen as well. Bad habits. I write Kotlin during the day. So sometimes when I start writing Go, I want to kind of do some Kotlin stuff. So.
What kind of framework is that?
Kotlin is the programming language. JetBrains, the company that actually wrote this IDE, also created the language Kotlin. So I did Android development by day, is what it is. Let's see. We're just going to kind of copy a little bit from our we're going to pass the game started function into it as well, and we'll just use the same game started function. That way we won't have to rework all of our logic for a game over start state versus just a new start. Okay. So we've got a new game over screen. What do we need to add to our game over screen?
Button.
I don't know if we're going to develop a button today. What else? How does it handle all of its logic? Yeah. That's the common question. And the answer is always update and draw. I would love to work on a button, but I think we can work on our sound effects because I think that'll be cooler than a button. How does that sound? Okay. So we've got our data here. I'm just going to copy this out. Copy paste coding isn't always the best idea, but all right, so the game over screen will make red, and we'll have the same enter to update method. Okay. So we have a game over screen now created that's very simple, but it's created and it'll work much like our start screen. We can come back to our main game struct and we'll add a variable to hold our game over screen here. We'll add another clause into our if else branch here. To handle our game over. All right. How then are we going to tell the game that we have a game over?
Check for your light when you walk on, or I guess it's
Yep. That's what I'm looking for. Move to opposite group. Yes, so in the level update, here at the very end, after we waited for all of our collisions, we'll have a check to see if we're still alive. And then this is inside of the level, but the game is managing what's getting showed where. Does that make sense? So just like we're passing our callbacks into the new into the new start screen, we can create a new callback. we're going to have a game over call. And when we get a game over call, we can simply set our level to nil. We can create a new game over, new game over screen. And then, right now we're creating this new ship right here at the beginning of the game. But I'm going to take it out and put it at the game started. So that when the game over screen is displayed and they hit enter and we restart, we'll recreate our ship. So we'll have that in our game started method. And now our level needs to know about our game over event. So let's check out our level. And we'll pass in a game over function here. And then let's see, l.ship.health is less than 0, and we will call the game over function that we pass in. So that way our level will be able to communicate back to the game when we need a change to happen. And we'll just pass this in. Our game over method will be called here, and then our level can talk back to the game if needed and show the game over screen. So now I've got to intentionally try to die so we can make sure all that works. It's kind of hard. Your instinct is to try to avoid it.
Well, I guess you're just not used to it.
Okay. So we've got our game over screen.
You just put womp womp in that screen.
Yeah, we're kind of doing the bare minimum right now to set the framework up to have it all.
I think you got an extra hit. You weren't supposed to. So one supposed to be less than or equal to 0.
I just said less than 0.
Yeah, because your life was all, well, whatever.
I mean,
It isn't.
yeah,
Yeah,
in my brain it's like 0 based indexing, so you have like one little sliver of health left. It's kind of how I was thinking about it, but. All right, so we've got our level here. Let's look back at our to-do. So we've got a start screen created. It's not the best, but we have it. So let's look at.
Did you add, I might have missed it. Did you add a way to get from the game over screen back to the start screen? Maybe you already added it.
We didn't. We're not going to the start screen. We're just restarting.
Oh, okay.
You could. I mean, you could do that, but just for today, when we create a new game over screen, we just pass it the game started, and then when they hit enter, it just restarts the game. So let's see. Let's actually look at this real quick. To start. Okay. Should we look at trying to put some audio in now? Does that sound all right? I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to handle this because some of these sound effects aren't licensed for me to like put them in a GitHub repo and have everybody get access to them.
Just don't pay for them.
Yeah. So we might put them in the game and then I might not commit them, but we'll go over that, see what we figure out. So we have like a depth charge sound. That one's a second long. Which one do you like better?
I like this second.
They all sound the same.
They all sound the same. I like the second one. What do you think, Asa?
Second one.
Second one? Okay. So we will download that. Let's come back over here to our game, to our assets directory.
What format are those in?
So that was downloaded in an MP3. For some reason, I've only had success getting MP3s to play with EBTension, but I was kind of time constrained when I was using WAV files, and WAV files are considerably bigger than MP3s anyway, so I figured, you know what, MP3s will be fine. All right, so let me, just 1 second. Let's see, projects, games, summary, games, assets, splash.mp3. All right, so I just copied that over as splash.mp3. Okay, I didn't get an email out this week, but I did do a blog post on adding sounds, and I'm probably going to reference it a little bit just because it's kind of complex. There's a handful of steps that you have to go through to be able to play. What we're going to do, so when you create sounds in this game engine, you get what's called an audio context. And then when you get an audio context, you can decode a stream, and then once you've decoded a stream, then you're able to play it, and it will kind of save that decoded stream in memory. So I'm going to attach them all to the game, and we'll actually have the level call back to the game to request a sound to be played. So to do that, we have to know a couple things. First off, you know, if you think about it, we're going to have like a splash sound when a depth charge lands in the water. We'll probably want to try to find a torpedo sound. Then we'll probably want to have like a hit or an explosion sound. So we're going to have a couple different sounds. So we're going to create a constant for our sounds, and then that way the level can request the sound that the game will play. We'll see it a little bit more as we move forward. Okay, so we need and then let's,
What is the IOTA?
we'll talk about it in just 1 second. One of my least favorite things about Go is it does not have enums. It doesn't have proper enums. And in this situation, where we have this const block, so we're specifying some constants that we want, we can put this IOTA, which they pronounce as iota, as it's spelled. And what it will do is it will automatically increment the value of whatever we add in here. And so it will give us a 0 and a 1 and a 2. And so that way we don't have to manually assign the values to everything. You only have to specify on the first one, and then it knows, and it will just keep on using it for the subsequent definitions of variables. So let's go to our.
Such a strong type language wouldn't have.
Well, I think it has to do where it kind of came from C. And I think I've read some documentation about it, and I can't say I remember it all off the top of my head. I'm not a huge Rust developer because I just don't have time to learn it, but I love Rust's enum types. I don't know if you've ever looked at them.
I haven't used Rust yet. I'm not using it a lot in the next year, so we'll see.
I like Rust from what I've done with it, but it's a super steep learning curve. And where I'm an Android developer by day, and then I do some Go development in the evenings. I don't have enough bandwidth to maintain what I've learned, so I've forgotten it all. All right, so we will work on initializing our sounds. So when the game starts up, we'll call this initialize sounds method. And we need an audio context to do so. And then we need a sample rate. And I don't exactly know what our sample rate is, but I think if I remember the documentation, it said it will resample some types of audio streams, so we'll just set it at that. So we have an audio context, and then we need to be able to create our sounds that we want to play. We're going to have a splash sound. And this is, okay, that's an audio player. So we need to load our bytes. So we can get what's called a reader, and it reads byte streams for us, and it can read them from the file system. I think that just takes a path. And then this return us a stream. Actually, you know what? This needs to be so that if I don't commit the sounds, this won't necessarily crash and die on us. All right, so this is kind of some new syntax, slightly. We have this variable declaration at the beginning, and it's inside of an if statement. We can use the variables that are returned as the condition check in our if statement over here. So we can, still kind of two-step initialization, but we can initialize and then check on that one line. So we've got a stream, and now we need to decode it. I'm not going to name this stream. We're going to name this R for reader. Oh. And then we'll have decode. Let's see. Without resampling. This might be bad. We'll see. R. And we can G dot splash sound. It's probably going to show us an error too. Okay, this is not going to like what we're going to do, so we need to We need to define this player error up here because this splash sound is already defined on our struct. And we're going to do all right, and then at least throw some errors, but we're not going to worry too much. Like I said, I don't know if I can bundle all these sounds up in the Git repository, so I might have to leave them out. And if that's the case, we'll still be able to start and run the app without having the sounds, and you can put whatever sound you want in there down the road. All right, now we need some way to be able to play the sound. And we need a sound type, which we defined. We sort of defined, like we have an integer here. We can actually redefine an integer and have a sound type. See again the bad enums. I wish there were better enums. So we'll have a play sound, and then we can switch on this sound type. Splash sound dot rewind. So we're going to rewind this because what happens is these sounds is just a stream of bytes. And once we play through it one time, it points at the end of that stream of bytes, and it doesn't have anything to play unless we rewind it. So I do a rewind and then I do a play, so it should play it when it happens. So where do we know how do we know we want to play a splash sound?
Well, you activate the depth charge.
Yep. So when the depth charge is fired, that's right. So we have our request charge method right here inside of our level, and we want our game to be able to play that sound for us. So we need to update just a little bit. Here's where things kind of start getting interesting because we've passed this game over method to our level, and we're going to pass a play sound method to our level. Potentially we could be passing a lot more methods into our level. So here's what I like to do. I like to create an interface, which is a group of functions, a group of methods. I like to pass an interface. Instead of a bunch of methods, and that way it gets easier to add more methods that you might rely on down the road for your game to work. So we'll now have a level interactor. And we will pass this in place. I never know if level interactor is an or an And then we can just say, look, the game satisfies this interface, so we can pass the game over here. And that will set the game up for us. And now we just need to fix our call and make sure that we're using the interactor that we set up. And now sound splash. So we should be able to now play a splash sound. Let's give this a shot and see what happens. Oh. This is telling us that we don't have the proper library definition, maybe is the way to put it, inside of our project. Let's see if that did what we needed it to do. Okay, so I hit enter. You guys are all right. So we got some sound effects in our game now. Yes, we do. We needed some torpedo shooting sounds and some explosions. They've got like some pings. I think so. Last week you were saying, you know, you can't put 100 submarines on the screen all at one time. So I think it would be cool to spawn more submarines in and play the little ping sound when that happens. So we've got like an underwater explosion. It might be kind of long for our use case.
Yeah, just be going on.
Yeah.
Well, so does it have to wait for the whole sound to play before it can go to the next? Like, would we get delayed? Or how would that work?
I'm not exactly sure how it works. I mean, we could take out our cooldown and see what happens when we...
Oh, shoot, yeah, just all at once.
Yeah. So we need to find...
Like, do we have to thread the sound under play or something?
Yeah, we may have to look into that. I don't know off the top of my head. What explosion do you guys like?
Sounds like
It does. And I mean, it's underwater, so it's hard to be... What is it going to sound like?
Oh, what's that large underwater?
You like that one? For when the submarine gets exploded?
yeah, it's just long, but yeah, like, that sounds good.
Okay. Let's see. All right, so I've added it here, underwater explosion. So I think instead of a hit, we'll do explosion underwater. And then we need to make sure that we can load it. Now, normally probably what I would end up doing is, well, let's actually do that. We need to create this create player. And this can return a player. Or an error. And now we can take this and move this over here. And we can put our path in there. return it. You gotta return a nil and an error. And then we'll return an error here. And then here, we'll leave this, we're going to leave the logging there, and we'll talk about it in just a second. AP. Well, actually, you know what? We'll probably just return this too. Sorry, I'm kind of thinking on my feet about how I want to do this. Here we will just return this new context. So now, we can set up our splash sound or error. We can create our audio player. And then we will and then we need our underwater explosion. All right. Now, where do we determine if our submarine has exploded?
Probably from, like, if the death screen is going or gone up.
Well, we need to determine if it's been hit, right?
Yeah.
So if a depth charge hits a submarine, then the sub is not active. And so that we had a hit, and we're only doing one hit on a submarine right now, right? And this can be our underwater sound. And we need to make sure that we're playing that as well. Okay, so let's see if we can explode a submarine with a sound. Our timing might be just a little bit off, but you know what? It's not too bad. All right, so that seems to be working pretty good, right? Any questions?
Did we add when we hit the torpedo that it cancels out the forget?
Yeah. So if you hit a torpedo with your depth charge, then that counts as a collision as well.
I don't think it played a sound though.
Yeah, we haven't added a sound for that.
Oh, okay. It's a separate function.
Yeah, I think we should have like a. Okay. So I want kind of like that first one if we were to play it for like a background sound of the game. I don't know if I love it though. I think it'd get pretty old pretty fast. Let's actually see. I don't know what kind of a sound to make for like a torpedo. Definitely not that sound. Too long. Oh, those are pretty long.
Like a missile pod or something?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, let's see what they have. Cannon shot, meteor, let's see, missile.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I actually like that first one.
That second one is just audio soup.
Yeah, it is. You're right. Oh, wrong direction. Okay, so let's come over here. Alrighty. Alright, so we got that. So if I don't know how to spell, is that what it's telling me? That's all right. So we're creating that, and now we have a request torpedo sound as well. Or method, sorry. Play sound. And let's see, we need to add this. And play that. Hopefully we got that all wired in together, right? That's not too bad a sound, is it? It does make it kind of come together, doesn't it? So we need some sort of a hit sound on our ship, but I want it to be different than the one underwater. But I don't want it to be crazy either. That one? You like that one? Sounds like I got hit by some sort of space magnet. How about that one? I kind of like that one.
Is there any way sound?
There is, yes. Yeah, so you can, so once we have our players created, except for I just lost a spot, there's a call. You could do missile dot, I can't remember, set volume. That set volume will take like a float as a percentage of its total volume. So yeah, you can adjust as needed. Okay, so let's move. Now, playing background sounds and music is a kind of different situation because you have to decode it a little bit differently. So maybe we'll get there, but I'm trying to decide if it makes sense to work on something else before then. Okay, so hit. Okay. Okay. So let's look up here on our torpedoes and ship. So if our ship was hit, all right. All right. I'm gonna have to fix this just a little bit because these calls will crash if they're not loaded down here. So I'll probably end up tweaking that just a little bit. But I just wanted to jump back over here. I think this is kind of what we have lined up for next week. Keeping score and then changing levels. Should we play with get started on the score right now for just the little bit of time we have left? So let's look at our ship and we can add a score and we'll just, I don't know, make it a really big integer perhaps. And then we can So we just have a little method to increment our score. I think we should get points for destroying torpedoes as well as blowing up submarines. So right here, if a depth charge hits a submarine, down the road, like we've talked about having different submarine types, but I think for right now, yeah, just how many points is it destroying a submarine worth? $250? And then when we hit a torpedo, how much is a torpedo worth?
I think it's hard. It's easier to hit torpedoes, right?
There's a lot more of them, and they're not moving away. They're just vertical.
You have to put yourself over the top of it.
Yeah, so there's a risk factor there.
More to the side though.
Oh yeah, so you're front back. 125.
125. All right. Okay, so we've got our score here. Now inside of our level,
I was like, why are you giving me your keys?
we have a draw method. Ultimately, I would like to, you can import fonts into the games and you can actually draw text onto the screen, but loading the font in isn't off the top of my head, so I'll have to come prepared with it next week. But we can util debug print at, there's a thing in Go that I can't remember what it is. There's a package that lets you put commas in and everything in the proper spot, but off the top of my head, I can't remember what it's called, so I'll have to look into that. Ship.score, and I think this gives us coordinates. So if we're drawing, I can't remember where we're drawing our health bar. If we're drawing it in the game, or if we're drawing it in the level. Ship.draw. Are we doing it in the ship? Oh yeah, we're doing it in the ship. So let's take the score and we'll put it over here with the ship. Ooh. Okay, our ship. Let's see, we're drawing our bars at 50 and then 3, so 350, so 450 and then 20. Oh yeah, I gotta, let's see if that will work for us. Hard to read, but score. It wouldn't necessarily be amazing sound effects too. You know, those are pretty awesome. there we go. So not the easiest to read that score, but we can work on that down the road. Any questions?
Do you know if for the rewind, is there a rewind to like a point in it? Like you can say where you want to start playing from?
I am not sure.
So I can't tell if it's delayed or if it's just the beginning. You'll have a little bit of like.
Yeah, I've gone in and taken some of the sounds and I've trimmed them right at the beginning so it plays as it should. Let's see. So there looks like there's a seek, but it's set position. Yeah. So there's a set position.
You have to kind of figure out
Looks like it takes an offset.
how many bytes relative to.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. It looks like it's a time duration, so you could probably offset it a number of milliseconds.
Oh, it is.
If you're, yeah. So you can parse durations out of milliseconds, nanoseconds, microseconds, all the way up to like days and years. So yeah, so that's a good observation. We could probably put that in if we needed to. You guys here for the programming class? You guys ever play sync sub? This is our version of sync sub that we've been building. Yeah. So we've been meeting for 7 weeks now, and this is what we've been building as we've been in here. So. Yeah, any other questions?
Should make the screen shake when the ship gets hit.
Well, we maybe could. You know that extra parameter, the camera parameter I keep on talking about?
To make it kind of like.
We could use the camera parameter perhaps and just change it. Yeah.
Make the screen shake extremely loudly for 5 seconds straight. No, it's perfectly balanced.
Yeah.
You want to give that real feeling of loss to the player.
You're so disoriented. All right. So I don't know if I'm going to add the sounds to the Git repo.
Yeah. If you have the names and we can find them if we want to use the same sounds or whatever.
Yeah, I can give some general links because we downloaded a handful of them. I can't remember exactly which ones they were, but I can add some links like this in an email.
Okay, you don't have the file name in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I renamed them when I copied them over, so they would be a little bit simpler. But yeah, at least the game will compile and should run without crashing because we're checking all of our players. And it's called Pixabay. So this is one of them. They've got like this sound effect drop down. So you can come in here and like the home page here and like go to sound effects. I mean, they're licensed for you to use them. They're royalty free, but there's a clause that says not for distribution. So, and then there's another place called itch.io that does a bunch of game assets.
Oh, it's just really good.
Yeah, they sell games here and assets, and then you can come here and find sound effects here as well. Just while I was preparing for the class tonight, I found sounds I liked better for this use case at Pixabay, so that's why we came in here with that. So yeah, I think that's everything I have for tonight. So we'll probably try to manage our levels next week so that we can switch through our levels and maybe make them increasingly more challenging. And then, and then I need to talk with Sean and just see what he thinks about meeting. Would you guys be interested in coming here for a couple weeks in programming and asking questions and kind of doing a lab style class for a little while? I'm more so asking you to.
Maybe because, like, hopefully my computer will run all the stuff.
Well, that makes sense. I need to pester Sean a little bit and make sure those computers have the software on it that we need to develop with.
I could probably do it on my computer.
Is that something you would be interested in?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, but
We're behind, but I was
That's
planning
okay.
to like run through it with her. But I mean, it's
Okay.
also good that she could come here and.
Okay. Well, that's fine being behind. I think that's probably farther ahead than most people in the class. But yeah, so I think next week we'll just plan on doing the level management and switching between levels. It's going to work much like we are with showing the start screen and the game over screen. We'll just have a callback that the level can say, hey, there's no more submarines. Load us up a new level and we can increment the level counter and then start a new level. So, well, if you guys don't have any other questions, I think that is.
So that's starting with a set number of submarines versus adding them.
Yeah, so the way I've been thinking about it is maybe like 1 through 10, maybe 1 through 5, we could just increase the submarines on the screen at a time. And then as you're saying, we can just then have a counter that will decrement and say once you've hit all the submarines for this level, then move on to the next one. Probably keep it kind of simple like that. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Looking good.
The sound effects, I think, really kind of make it immersive. It makes them.
I do feel like we need an explosion animation.
Yeah.
Gotta get that satisfaction.
Yeah. Well, you know, if she's the graphic one, maybe she could work on one for us and have it prepped for class.